Hey everybody! We just released version 9.2 and I'm super excited to show you how the new sites management module works, so stay with me. So if you run multi-language sites in Typo 3, there's a lot of things you need to take care of, right? You need domains, you need to have a lot of typoscript, you need to have conditions, so if the syslanguage UID is, say, 0, it needs to show this and that, and if it's 1 for, say, Danish, it's that and that. And, it's tricky. And we came up with a new way, and this is mainly the work of Benny Mack, who built the new sites management module, and we're going to take a look at this now. So, to give you an idea of our current site, it's very, very basic. So we have one site, which is called My Site. It's going to be the main site we're working on. And then we added microsites with another site. That's the basic idea. And we're going to take a look at the typoscript we have defined right here, which is, it doesn't get more basic than that, right? So even if we remove the comment, we're talking about 2 lines of typoscript. So what we do is we set up a page object and then have all the content being pulled in to that page object. Super simple. But what we do now is we head over to our new site management main module and click on configuration. And what you can see now is that Typo 3 has identified 2 potential sites that you want to set up. And these are all pages that have the is site root checkbox checked. And what we can do now is we can add a new configuration for this site. So we hit the button and now we can see there's a new editing form. And the first thing we need is a site identifier. So it's a name for the site we can freely pick. So I'll just call it main site. This is going to become a directory. That's the important thing to notice. Under typo3conf/sites. So make sure not to use any special characters, like don't put a dot at the beginning because the folder might be hidden from the file system, these kind of things. The next thing is the root page ID, where this site configuration should resolve to. And this is just, you can see what it is, but you can't change it. And then we need something called entry point, or the base for this site. And what we enter here is a core.lcl. This is how my local system works. It's HTTP. This is because I use a special domain, top-level domain LCL for local. So I don't have a certificate for that yet. It's local. That's not the big deal. In all other cases, if you're using production, use SSL for your sites. So the next thing we can see is that obviously we miss a couple of fields in the language tab. So let's take a look at what we got here. So if we scroll down here, we can see that we have the default language, which we obviously need. And we're going to call this English. And we can add a navigation title. This is a little surprise for another video. Stay tuned for that. And then we have yet another entry point for this. And we'll just leave this to / in that case. Then we need a locale, which in our case we're going to set to enus.utf8. We need a 2-letter ISO code and we're going to set it to English. So this is what we got here. Then we need the hreflang attribute. We need to define whether the content is being displayed right to left or left to right. It's going to be left to right in our case. And then we have a language key file for Typo 3's local lang files. This is also very important. And then we can select the flag, and we're just going with the, where's the UK flag? I hope they got one. Great Britain, Wales. Yeah, we'll just go with Wales for the time being, for all the Welsh guys out there. So, next thing we can do, if we scroll up, we now have the available languages which are defined in the Typo 3 installation. And the cool thing is, we can now click Danish, and what you can see is that it's removed from here, but it's now being set down here as an inline relation. And you can see that it'll take a lot of information directly from the defined language record. And it will even come up with the potential entry point that we have right here. So if we set this to /DA, or in our case, most likely I'll put it to /DK, and then set the correct locale, and I hope this is correct. All the Danish guys, please bear with me. And I guess this is DK. They're right, left to right as well. And we want to use a different language key for that, which is DA. This is type 3's internal stuff. And let's say we want to have a language fallback for that. So what we can describe now in the Danish language, if we open it up again, down here, how our language fallback is supposed to work. So we're going to set it to, let's do some weird thing. So if we don't find Danish content on this website, we then want to try and show French content. And if we don't find French content either, we're going to go with the default language. Bear with me, this is something you will never see in practice, but you get the point. If we move over to the right, you can see error handling. And this is super interesting because we now allow you to create dedicated error handling per site within Typo3. And this is huge. Up until now, you were only able to set like one central page not found handling, one central error handler, blah, 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 for the entire site. If you have a lot of sites, a lot of trees in your Typo3 installation, you now have the possibility to set dedicated error handlers for a couple of errors. So these are the errors we come up with by default, but these are just suggestions. So if your extension throws some special HTTP status code, you can still edit the value right here. So if you want to go for 444, for whatever reason, you could just type it in there. The next thing you need to select is one of the available error handlers. And the core ships 3 by default. The first one is a fluid template. If we select this, the form is going to refresh. And we will simply have a fluid template we can define. So we go for ext yt demo resources private templates, templates errors 404.html. You can optionally set your root paths if you want to use partials and layouts in your templates right here. So once we have all this saved, we head over to the page module, and what we can do now is we can basically just take a look at the website. And what you can see right here, it's calling, I'll just remove the full screen here. We are now on typo3-core/LCL, ID equals 1, just how you would expect it, and we get our English headline. The interesting thing is though, I can now do /DK right here, reload it, and now you see that we get the Danish content. And you might say, well, I can do multi-sites in Typo3, super easy, nothing special happening here, right? Well, if we get back to Typo3 and still take a look at our TypoScript template, it's still 2 lines, right? And this works across the board. It sets all the necessary metadata on your page. It takes care of all conditions that you need to set. It's all just working right here. So you no longer need system-main records. That's the first thing. You no longer need a ton of TypoScript that's like tricky to work with. No more conditions, and because conditions are slow by definition. They just are in TypoScript because they need to be evaluated anyways on every page request uncached, so Typo3 can basically identify which TypoScript to show. You no longer need those. It's amazingly fast. It's super simple to do. So let's take a look at the cool stuff that we have. Let's add another language. So we go in here and now we add German to the mix. And we scroll down here and we can see everything has been set by default. We need de_de.utf8. ISO code works. This should be de. Language direction should be left to right. We want to have the German xlib files. The flag icon works already. And we would just do /de, right? This is how that works. Well, I want to do something else. I want to have de.typo3-core.lcl as my base. So if we save this, close it, we now have yet another site right here. And if we move to the top and make a German translation, and we'll just call it meine Seite, go to access, enable it, save and close, and then we just add a new content element right here, which is hello world in German, and we save it, and we then go to de.typo3-core.lcl. You'll now see that you can use both domains and path segments for your configuration. So if we take a look here, we can see the English version runs under typo3-core.lcl. The Danish version runs under typo3-core.lcl/da. And the, oh no, this should be dk, by the way. Let me just fix that. Danish. And it should be dk, just for consistency's sake. And the German version runs with a completely different domain. So this is how that works in languages. You see, you save a lot of stuff in the database, right? No typo script, no system-main records, all that kind of stuff. And now you figure, well, it's a site configuration. It looks like everything within typo3. It has a TCA definition. Now I got that stuff in the database, and like that doesn't get me any further. Hold that thought, because if we take a look at our file system structure, I just close these things down. In the typo3 conf directory, you will find a new directory which is called sites, and it has a main site config YAML file. And if we open up this thing, you can see that everything you defined with TCA is now stored in a YAML file, which you can put into versioning, roll it out in production, on deployment. Super helpful. We're not entirely sure if we stick with YAML. We might switch over to a JSON definition with a schema so that you have code completion if you're more the I write things in my IDE kind of guy. But the good thing is that you can basically copy over all these things in your IDE, put it to a different folder, whatever fits your bill, and you can work with that. And in the future, we want to have this sites directory enriched with stuff like templates, your JavaScript assets, your CSS files, all these kind of things. Everything that you have in a site package extension right now is basically a site package, correct? So all these things should go into the site directory. What we haven't touched yet are the error handlers. So if we take a look at our site configuration, we have the 404 error handler, and we have a file in ext yt demo resources private template errors 404. If we take a look at our file system, this is where we got the yt demo resources private templates errors 404, and it just says, holy moly, I'm not here. So let's check out how this looks in the front end. So in the front end, we now called a URL for a page that obviously isn't there. So what we can see now that we get the output, holy moly, I'm not there, from our fluid template. Let's take a look at the fluid template. So if we do a quick f debug, if I can type it properly, and we go to, is it uppercase? I think it's lowercase. So we can now reload this, and what you can see is that you get the full-blown request object from Typo3's core. This is all PSR7, where you can see the exact request that was getting you to that page. You get a message you can react to. In the server request, you get like the status code that's automatically being sent as a 404, and you can just work from there. And since you get the language as well in the attributes array, so here you have the language, and you can just debug that specific thing on your own. There's a couple of settings like the requested language, blah, 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 blah. All this works out of the box. So let's choose another error handler, the show content from page handler. And this basically just needs a page to display content from. So if we provide a link here to a page, we can select, let's go somewhere else. Do we have content somewhere? I think not. Let's close that down, and we'll just create a simple 404 page. So we put it in here, 404 error. We enable the page. We put a content element on there, which also says, holy moly, I'm not here. So we save this, get back to our site configuration, into the error handling, and provide a link to the 404 page we just created. So we save this, and as you can see, it uses proper Typo3 internal linking syntax. So you have all the benefits from that. So if we scroll down, you'll see that it'll actually, like resolve the path you're going to. And if we reload this, you see the text is now uppercase because this is content being pulled in from a different page. And what you might have been doing up until now is that you were using Typo3's redirect functionality in case an error occurred. That thing had one big problem, and that was that you would lose the URL of the 404 request, right? So if somebody requested the page 11124522135, you would be redirected to your 404 page, so you would lose it in your web server logs. And this is a huge problem. So what you can do here, you can just provide a regular page. It'll pull in all the data. So you can see this works very, very easily. Those who paid attention would realize that you can also set external URLs right here. So let's do something which makes no sense whatsoever. We'll just go to ebay.de in case of a 404 page. So if we save this and then reload our front end, it takes a while, and you see that the URL is still intact, although we now deliver the entire web page content from ebay.de. This might make sense if you have centralized 404 pages across multiple machines. Personally, I would just go with something local, but yet we didn't want to remove the possibility to do so. And last but not least, we have a PHP class you can use as your error handler. So you basically provide a fully qualified class identifier or class name for this. So you start with, say, my vendor / my extension / error handlers / foo handler. And this class needs to be available. It needs to be auto-loaded, of course, and it needs to implement the page error handler interface, which the core provides out of the box. And within this thing, you can basically, you get the request object, and you can just work with whatever you want to do with that. It's PHP, so you have all control you need. Another important thing to mention, though, is that there is a special error case, which is 0. And 0 means any error that's not otherwise catched. So put these things in order, put 0 to the very bottom, because a third-party extension might throw a 402, a 403, 405, whatever potential error, everything within the 400s, 500s, everything's possible. The important thing to note is that some extension authors might throw error codes or HTTP status codes that aren't even there. So make sure to catch all these in the central error handler. And there you have it. It's very little TypoScript you need. You just use 2 lines of TypoScript here to configure 2 languages. No, not even that. 3 languages. One with let me show you that. I'm going to discard the changes. One with the regular domain, one with the path segment that's being appended to all URLs, and one with an entirely new URL. And this is the way we want to go further in Typo 3, so that you have all possibilities to configure things without having to know too many details, not having to remember tons of TypoScript. Typo 3 does that all for you. So I really enjoy the feature. The core team enjoys the feature. I hope you enjoy the feature as well. As usual, if you have any suggestions, leave them in the box below. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye.